忘れられた都市、続きやっていきます。いや、物語ももう大詰めですね。今回はですね、石板4つ集まったんで、そこの大神殿に行ってプルートに会いに行こうと思います。いや、本当はね、前回の選挙終わったその流れでそのまま会いに行こうと思ったんだけど、檻から解放したドゥリさんが、いきなりね、盗っ人をして、それで黄金律破ってまたループしちゃいましたね。うん、少なくともね、センティウスさんがドゥリさんも牢屋に入れるっていうのはこれ間違いじゃないね。あの人がね、そこら辺歩いてると、すぐに黄金律を破っちゃうんで、そこだけはね、センティウスはグッジョブでしたね。さあ、また、一応お願いします。これ全部しといて。これもして、これも、これも。はい、はい、レッツゴー。お願いします、あとは。さあ、行くか。今回の目的、これですね。ヘラクレスの試練で4枚の名盤を全てオベリスクに戻すと。あ、でもちょっと待って。こっちの黄金は圧かくっていうのって、これってクエストマークが出んの？特に出ないかな。まあ、これは別にいいかな。もう上層いってるもんね。ヘラクレスのこの試練は、ちゃんとマーカー出てるね。あ、ちょっと待って、ひょっとして上層シスタンって、これかな？あ、こっから来たんだね。でもさっきのクエスト、これで消えたね。うん。まあ一応クエストは全部クリアできた感じだよね。そっか、こんな場所にあったんだ。全然これまでね、気づいてなかったね。この時間帯まだウルピウスさんこっちに来てないんですね。で、4枚の石板を配置する必要があるんだけど、今鍵がかかっていて、で、これか、オベリスクって、確かに。ここね。はい。あ、なんか光ってるよ、これ。うん。ああ、いける。大神殿に入る。オベリスクって、これもね、前にやった古代エジプトのね、オープンワールドのゲームにこういうのもあったね。ああ、プルートいるの？あと、主人公にね、助言をしてくれた存在もいるのかな。誰なんだろう。プロセブルってなんだっけ。この人なのか、その従属神なのか。神の名を口にして。どうやって？えーっこれ、どうすればいいんだろう。これ4つあるんだけど、どれがいいの？何も言わないだと、なんか怒られたりする？でもね、この4つから選ぶっていうのも変な話だなと思うんだけど、あ、でも入れない。えーっね、じゃあ、富の不信、プルートよ、一見を望む。ちゃんと一見してくれる？とても近いわ。あれ？開かないよ。あ、ひょっとしてこれって、建物の名前でその時代、あ、これ、ギリシャ風だよね。そっか、これね、建物が何階層にもなっていて、各扉を開ける言葉がその時の文化に応じてるんだ。じゃあこれはハデスだね。なるほどね。 ここはエジプトだね。本当だ。これ昔の文明の人たちが作った神殿を次に来た文明の人たちが覆いかぶせてるんだね。ここはエジプトの神様なのでオリシスだね。そして最後がシュメール文明ね。それほど遠くないわ。シュメール文明だとアラブルをネルガルっていう風に呼ばれてるんだ。この話知らないな。眩しい。何も見えない。ちょっと待って、ほら、ちょっと待って、やっぱりこういう展開来た。シュメール文明ってやっぱりそういう設定があるんだよね。宇宙から来た奴らがですね、この地球に来た時に人間を自分たちの召使いとして作ったっていう設定があるんで、それが多分反映されてるね。じゃあこういうのは宇宙人ってことですよね。ちょっと。さすがにこの展開全く予想しなかったんですけど、しかもこれ地球が浮いてるんだけど、どういうことこれ。何これ。ちょっと見てこれ。じゃあ誰が待ってんのこれ。やっと開いた。3人いるね。
And here you are. Allow me to introduce myself. As you have already gathered, I've been known by many names. Nergal to the Sumerians, Osiris to the Egyptians, Hades to the Greeks, and Pluto to the Romans. But the one constant through it all has been my title, God of the Underworld. And I've been watching you with curiosity, mortal, ever since your arrival. You are unlike the others, aren't you? And what is more, you carry a weapon that was never intended for mortals to wield, and you do it so brazenly. But there will be time for your reckoning later. First, as a reward for undoing the desecration of my obelisk, I will allow you to satisfy your curiosity. Ask what you will.
ありがとうございます。まずあなたのことは聞きたいです。
My story is many thousands of years long. You will need to be more specific. What do you wish to know?
あなたは神か、いや宇宙人です。
It is a matter of perspective. God is a label I was given by you mortals, not one I gave myself. Your ancestors revered me because to them, my knowledge and technology made me incomprehensibly powerful, just as you might seem so to an insect. But despite all that, there are rules even I must obey.
なぜ人間の姿を持ち人間の言葉を喋るのが、いやそもそも宇宙人の姿に似せて人間を作ったからですよね。シュメール文明はそういう話なんで。
My kin and I all adopted this form long ago, so that we might better understand and communicate with your kind. In time, we grew fond of the sensory delights in affairs, desire, joy, ecstasy, even rage and sorrow, while an acquired taste can be addictive.
じゃあここはちょっと昔から聞いているシュメールの伝説とはちょっと違うね。あなたの本当の姿を見せてほしい。
No. Long ago I swore to Persephone that I would remain in this form for as long as we remained among your kind. I must honor that.
プロセルピナ？じゃあ左右にいるどっちがそうなんですね。あなたの左にいる女性は誰だ？
This is my beloved. Like me, she has been known by many names. Ereshkigal to the Sumerians, Isis to the Egyptians, Persephone to the Greeks, and Proserpina to the Romans. Or perhaps you might know her as the goddess of springtime, the cycle of life and renewal. Your gaze lingers too long.
今のでやっと分かったね。主人公にずっと助言をしてくれてるのは今のプロセルピナさんで間違いないですね。もう一人いますよね。
That is my servant. You would have met by the river, though she wears many faces and goes by many names. Kumutubal to the Sumerians, Kirti to the Egyptians, Charon to the Greeks, and Charon to the Romans. Her role is to ferry souls between the mortal world and this one, and to make their transition as seamless as possible. For that, she earned herself the infamous, if erroneous, moniker, the Ferryman. You will talk more later. For now, ask your questions.
じゃあ別の話をしましょう。ここは一体どういう場所だ？宇宙船でしょ？
It has come to be known simply as the underworld, and it exists because of a wager I made long ago. That is a long story, one that began over 3,000 years ago and continues to this day. You see, long ago my kin and I set out from our home on Elysium to search for other forms of life among the stars. We discovered your planet and witnessed your kind evolving from primates into something lawless and barbaric. You all but destroyed yourselves, your two short lives being extinguished by violence and ignorance and disease. Yet Proserpina saw raw potential in you and persuaded the rest of us it would be squandered without our intervention and stewardship. So we revealed ourselves to your people in a place called Sumer. We offered guidance in agriculture, toolcraft, and law, and you called us gods. For a time you flourished, but soon you were too many for us to oversee. And as you spread from that cradle of civilization, we saw something disturbing. We had sown the seeds of dependency and confusion, and soon you returned to your old ways of violence and ignorance, this time in our name. My kin had seen enough, and gave up on your kind, condemning you as barbaric and chaotic, scarcely more than animals. We began preparations to return to Elysium, our home world, a utopia unspoilt by conflict and unimaginable in its beauty. But my Proserpina could not bear to abandon your kind without guidance, and knowing it would force the rest of us to leave her behind, she made an extraordinary sacrifice. She gave up her immortality to descend permanently to the ranks of humankind. And so she began her inescapable trajectory toward death. Horrified, I acted swiftly. I placed her in suspended animation in a deep frozen sleep to prevent age and sickness from claiming her. And then I pleaded with Proserpina's father, who the Romans called Jupiter, to bring her with us to Elysium. It was and is my hope that once there, we might one day learn to undo what she has done to herself. But he refused. I did everything I could to persuade him, but he would not relent. He would rigidly uphold his final pronouncement. Humans were unworthy of ascension to Elysium, and no exceptions would be made. But seeing that I was aggrieved, he proposed a wager, the terms of which were as follows. If even one human city could prove itself capable of living without sin for a single year, then Proserpina and all of humanity would be permitted to join us in Elysium. My part would be to remain behind, the last of my kind, to watch over you without interfering, and to sit in silent judgment. And so my reward has been to languish here, enduring a 3,000-year winter, waiting for the day your kind proves itself worthy of her faith in you, so that I might take her with me to Elysium and unthaw my goddess of springtime. And here I am, after all this time, still waiting.
1年間持たなかったんですが、まあそれだけ難しいっていうことだよね。
There were also gods who, like me, have been known by many names, but perhaps you knew them by their Roman names. Our leader Jupiter, as well as Neptune, Saturn, Juno, Minerva, Mars, Venus, Apollo, Diana, Vulcan, Vesta, Ceres, and of course, my beloved Proserpina.
この町を作ったのは
As the
誰だ？
first wave of your kind arrived from Sumer, I had them build the city in their own fashion, so that they might be comfortable and recreate their lives here. I had them build the entrance as a vertical shaft leading to baths to cleanse them of the sins of their former lives and to prevent escape. I watched wave after wave of Sumerians arrive, and as their civilization declined over the centuries, they were replaced by Egyptians. Of course, believing themselves to be the superior civilization, the Egyptians promptly built over what had been built before and made all the same mistakes. After another 1,000 years, the Greeks began to arrive, and then the Romans, and they all did the same thing. They built upon the underworlds of their predecessors, renamed their gods, and ensured their foundations were forgotten.
ここに来る人間をどうやって決めた？確かにこれ選定してるよね。その基準は？
To ensure the wage was fair, it was important that the
なんだもん何
subjects
回。
were chosen at random. To this end, I had my servant distribute 1,000 tokens fashioned from silver, a rare element at the time, across all of Sumer. Whoever died while in possession of one of them would be located by my servant and ferried to this place, with no memory of how they arrived. As the tokens were discovered, they were traded, smelted, and fashioned into trinkets, and eventually coins, spreading to Egypt like seeds on the wind. Later, when they spread to Greece, they would come to be known as Charon's obol, or as coins for the ferryman. Some placed coins in the mouths of their dead, hoping they would awaken here, though they had no way of knowing which coins were fashioned from the original tokens. In fact, almost all of the tokens are accounted for, only 2 remain. And so after this wave destroys itself, as it is destined to do, your kind will have squandered the last of its potential to ascend beyond this rock, and Persephone is along with it.
その2枚っていうのが最初に主人公がカレンさんに会った時に提出された2枚ですよね。人間はどうやって冥界のことを知ったんだ？
It is a regrettable story. One of the first men who came to this place was a king of Sumer and a troublemaker. To be rid of him, I returned him to his people on the condition that my servant erased his memories of this place. But the erasure did not take completely, and he told stories of this place as if describing memories of a dream. His tales were committed to writing, which came to be known as the Epic of Gilgamesh, and his words were twisted and distorted over generations. Later, the Egyptians would adapt Sumer's stories of the underworld, making them wildly intricate and labyrinthine. Their Book of the Dead and Book of Gates bore less and less resemblance to this place, and their priests' pursuit of profit. Then, when the Greeks began to arrive, they proved far more cunning. In a series of incidents that will not be repeated, 5 of them escaped. A warrior named Heracles, 2 kings named Sisyphus and Theseus, a poet named Orpheus, and a Trojan named Aeneas. They each told embellished tales of this place, how to get here, and how to escape. And so from Sumer to Egypt, Greece to Rome, your kind has always told each other stories about this place, though each story contained only a seed of truth.
いや、このゲームの設定作った人、よくこれ考えついたね。いろんな地域とか年代が違う物語をね、面白くね、組み合わせたね。これは人気だよ。あなたが黄金律を司っているのか。
That is merely the name your people have given to it, but yes, it is my doing.
なぜ人間を黄金に変えるのか。
That is a story dating back to the very first wave. After the Sumerians finished building their city, the self-declared ruler threw a banquet to celebrate. Now this man was unmarried, and many women were vying to become his wife, a prestigious position of power and influence in a new world. Of all the women, 2 were particularly ambitious. Both were beautiful, and both arrived at the banquet wearing eye-catching dresses and painted faces, their hair woven in elaborate fashion. The first woman, recognizing that she would require an advantage to win the ruler's affection, draped herself in jewelry, ornate necklaces, bracelets, and rings fashioned from gold. Seeing this ostentatious display, the second woman grew envious, for she had no such jewelry at her disposal. She prayed aloud to any gods that would listen to cover her in gold, and when her prayer went unanswered, she took matters into her own hands. While the others indulged at the banquet, the second woman summoned the first for a discussion in a quiet place. She checked that nobody was watching, pushed her rival from the top of the ziggurat where she broke her neck on the rocks below. But I was watching, and I decided to answer her prayer. I took the golden bow left behind by Diana, and I shot that woman in the heart, covering her from head to toe in a layer of molten gold. And I left her to stand there, that she might serve as a grim reminder of what befalls those who sin in my domain. But that was not enough, for the entire city was tainted by her sin, and the wager could no longer be won. So I had no choice but to wipe the slate clean. I gilded them all to make way for a new wave, and began the wager again. And to this day, each of them, and all who came after, line the halls of this city, inanimate but conscious, suspended in time with only their sight and hearing preserved, so they may bear witness to and lament the folly of your kind for eternity, as silent golden sentinels.
やっぱり視覚と聴覚残っていて、周りを見えているんですね。聞くこともできますよと。それ辛いっしょ。でもね、ナイビアさんの時に金メッキ剥がされた人たちは私を殺してくれとかありがとうって言ってたんだけど、あれも結局黄金になっただけだから、やっぱりあれから生き続けているっていうことだよね。まあ痛みはなくなったんだから、それだけありがとうっていうことだったんだろうね。つまりあの人たちの生活を壊したのはあなたか。
I give your kind a second chance at life, as well as ample warning about my law. And when you disobey, and you always disobey, you force my hand, bringing terrible suffering upon yourselves. And so you ask if I am the one destroying your lives. And I say, no, you destroy yourselves. I am merely the means by which you do it.
これは物は言いようだね。黄金の意味はどこから出てきたものか。そのデメテルさんが持ってたって話だね。
When my kin departed, they left behind many relics which I inherited. A consolation prize of sorts. The golden bow originally belonged to one of my kin, who the Romans called Diana. As my collection of golden statues grew, I chose the most ferocious among them, and equipped them each with a duplicate of her bow, and tasked them with hunting down the Forsaken at my behest. They became known simply as Furies.
ああ、なるほど。振り合いは神ではなくて、弓を持って動いている黄金像そのものを表していたんですね。あなたは何を罪だとみなしているのか、こう明確な定義聞きたいね。
I've always considered that the cornerstone of morality is the ability to determine right from wrong on one's own. No attempt to lay out rules like your Code of Hammurabi or your 12 Tables of the Roman Republic can ever cover all possible scenarios. This should come as no surprise to you, since the core principle has been expressed in many forms by many of your civilizations. The Egyptians made a rudimentary attempt with do to the doer to make him do. The Greeks refined it with avoid doing what you would blame others for doing. The Roman Stoics added, treat your inferior as you would wish your superior to treat you. Even the so-called cultists hiding among you often say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It is the simplest of concepts, and each one of you is born with the faculties required to apply it to any situation. Yet none of the peoples who expressed this rule were able to uphold it. Curious, is it not?
うん、それはね、守れないんです。その原則を守ることは口で言うほど簡単ではない。あなただって維持し続けることはできなかっただろう。私はこれまでずっとそういう生き方をしてきた。これどうだろう。これ真ん中選んだら怒らない？上にしとこう。
For you, perhaps.
人が罪を犯すのをどうやって知るのか。それここから見てるんじゃない？
I'm able to commune with all of the statues in the city. Their ears are my ears, and their eyes are my eyes.
殺されピナも同じ方法で象とつながっているのか？
If she was still conscious, I suppose she could, but she's not. Why do you ask?
気をつけて、彼は私が話しかけていたことに気づいていない。意識がないと思ってるんだ。理由がない。
Then what an odd question.
あなたはここで非道な行為が行われてもそれを罪とは見なさないこともあるようだ。なぜそれらを許すのか？
Do you plan to speak in sweeping generalizations? Or are you going to give me an example?
一番僕が不満に思ってるのはこれだね。詐欺に関することだよね。
You speak of the moneylender. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
彼本人だって借金の抵当として30年の労働契約を結ばされることを望みはし、そういう話じゃない。詐欺の部分が問題なんだけど。
And he would never have signed a contract pledging his labor for 30 years. All he did was enforce the terms of a contract signed voluntarily by others.
奴隷のような形で、これだね。分かった。
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
拉致。そういえば、センティラさんって鎖に繋がれてたのね。
Abduction? You mean the magistrate imprisoning his daughter in the cistern, I take it. He did so because she sought to escape, a sin I take particularly seriously. Better that he stops her from escaping, albeit brutishly, than I have to wipe out this entire city to punish her. Wouldn't you agree?
それは同意できますね。
What other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
ちょっとね、僕が聞きたい内容、このリストにない。詐欺の問題聞きたいんだけど、大物に対しての実験、これはね、
The midwife and the palace, yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
彼女自身が黄金漬けになっていたら、自分が実験台になりたいとは思わなかっただろう。
The rule is do unto others, meaning other people. Those statues are something else now. Bloodless shadows, mere shapes of their former selves. They are forsaken. What happens to them is no concern of mine.
これはマッドサインティストが言っていた通りだね。それは法を極めて文字通りに解釈したもののように思えると。
Applying this rule always requires us to interpret the meaning of the words. The literal interpretation helps to minimize the ambiguities of your primitive language.
これは現代の法理解でも同じだよね。できるだけね、過去の定義された文章を文面通りに理解するっていう流れを普通考えるんだよね。本当はそれ時代に合わなくなってるんで、その度に議会で承認を受けて法を変えていくっていうことが必要になるんだけど、私たちの使う言葉が曖昧に満ちているのなら、規則は本質的に主観的で信頼性のないものなのではないか。
Supposing you are right, then my law has been broken, and I should turn you all to gold immediately. Is that what you want?
いいえ。
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
あとは自殺か。あとまでなんか増えてる。あれ、こんな選択肢なかったよね。
I've seen no such thing, but in any case, taking one's own life is a self-directed act. It is not one that is done to others, however they may be affected by it. Therefore, it cannot be said that one who commits suicide has done anything unto others. あ
れ、今なんか自殺を見ていないって言ったと思うんだけど、いや見てるよね。 このループしてる世界観ってこの人ちゃんと見てると思うんだけど、
Now tell me, what other sins do you
あれ
believe
ちょっと待ってよ。いやでもループしてるの知ってるはずだよね。いやひょっとして知らないの、この冥界の神は。プロセルピナさんが独自でやっていたことでループしてるっていうことは実は見てないのかな。でも黄金の目を通してるんだから、これまで何千回って繰り返されているんだから見てるはずだよね。神々は残酷だと言われるのも無理はない。あなたの道徳感がいかに当てにならず主観的なものかが分かった。あなたは善悪の判断については人間よりも劣ってなんでむっちゃ喧嘩売ってんの。
Do you honestly think you could do better?
はい。いや、しかしこれこそ私が言いたいことだ。善と悪の判断を完璧にできる存在はいないのだから、このような権力を漏らしてはいけないのだ。あなたは暴君になってしまった。
I should strike you down for that.
あ、ちょっと待って。もしそうしたらそれは私の主張を証明することになると。話は終わりだ。ケリをつけよう。いや、ダメでしょ。
Now, did you have any other questions before your reckoning?
別の話をしよう。
Very
分
well.
かった。まだ別の話できた。
Good. Then now it is time for your reckoning. Only, it seems, something is wrong. It has long been within my power to see into the hearts of mortals and weigh their deeds in life. But when I peer into you, I see only a blank slate, as if you did not exist until you appeared in this city. How is this possible? Charon, where did you find
どう
this?
いうこと？カロンさんどういう
I
こ
do
と？
not remember ferrying you. How did you come here?
嘘？私は未来から来た。年を重ねて忘れっぽくなったのではないか。まあ正直に、いや一応隠しとこう。
You would have us believe that my servant merely forgot bringing you here.
あ、すいません。失言でした。私は2000年後の世界から来ました。すいません。素直に言います。
If that is true, then I sense the intervention of someone powerful.
How did you come to be in this time, mortal? Who brought you here?
He cannot know.
言っちゃダメ。プロセルピナさん言っちゃダメなんですか？でもね、説明しようがないんだけど、自分の力でここに来た。
Impossible.
あ、そうだよ
No
ね。
mortals possess such power.
もっと納得のいく説明はあるのか？
Not yet, but I will learn the truth. Enough of this. It seems I will need to put your reckoning on hold for now. But answer this. Why have you come here? What is it you see?
黄金律をやめてほしいです。そうそう、これ。私はここから出たいだけだ。あなたを殺しに来たってダメでしょ。終わらせてほしい。
Your hubris is amusing, so I will allow you to make your case. But I warn you, if you anger me or waste my time with lies or wrong-headed arguments, you face death here. So, tell me, why should I put an end to the so-called golden rule?
なんでこの選択肢があんの？話は俺だ、ケリをつけろって。これを愛する人のためにやっているのなら、プロセルピナはあなたを愛していないことを知った方がいい。それ言っちゃっていいの？すげえ怒ると思うんだけど。なぜ私たちに罪のない生き方を望むのか。あんた自身がそれができていないようだが。これも喧嘩を売ってる。黄金律の存在がこの町を堕落させている。このままでは賭けに勝つことなど決してない。これでしょ。
How so? And be specific. You have made a grave allegation, and I expect you to back it up.
ルフィウスは怯えすぎて疑心暗鬼になり、バージルの性的思考にさえ不安を感じている。マレオラスは反抗することがあなたの法を破ることになると人に思わせて、債務奴隷を抑制していた。これ両方ともいけるんじゃない？
He is a volatile and confused fellow, that one. His cruelty does seem to grow greater by the day.
思いつく具体例は異常だ。
Pathetic.
え、
You will
あれ
need
ない
to do a
そう
lot better than that.
ちょっと待って、どういうこと？ひょっとして、これ、足りなかったってこと？なんか、これまでの動きが。そう。じゃあ、これ言っとく。さすがにこの一番上はダメだと思うんだけど。
That is a very serious accusation, mortal. What sin have I committed? What evidence do you have to support it?
あなたはプロセルピナを連れ去ってここに閉じ込めたのでは？あなたは町の人たちを彼らの意思を無視して閉じ込めている。あなたはごく些細な罪しか犯していないものや、全く罪を犯していないものなど、数多くのものに過酷な罰を与えている。これだ。
I am well aware of the story told by the Greeks and Romans of my so-called abduction. It is entirely unfair. My love was dying, and I intervened the only way I could to save her life. What would you have done?
それを望んでなかったんですよ。でもプロセルピナは自ら死を選んだのでは？
It was an act of rebellion against the others. She knew I would have to act to save her, and I did because I loved her. I love her still. Accordingly, I reject your argument.
じゃあ別の選択肢。あなたは町の人たちを彼らの意思を無視して閉じ込めている。
These people were all dead when my servant found them. I gave them a second chance at life. Would you prefer to have simply ceased to exist?
望んでいるかもしれない。
Then you still have the option to end your life should you wish, and you are no worse off than if I had not intervened. Accordingly, I reject your
どういう
argument.
ことこれ？ひょっとしてこれダメかも。これ、ひょっとしてダメ？あなたはごく些細な罪しか犯していないものや、全く罪を犯していないものなど、数多くのものに過酷な罰を与えている。
Every one of those people was guilty of failing to ensure their peers lived virtuously. They failed collectively, and so they were punished collectively. The Romans understand this, as did the Greeks before them.
我々がもともといた場所では、集団的懲罰は最も悪質な犯罪の一つとみなされている。もしあなたが私の立場なら、他人の罪のせいで罰を受けたいとは思わない。これだと思う。
Ah, but I am a god, and you are a mortal. Why would you expect me to treat you as I treat my own kind? You are not a peer. You are not a respected equal. Let me ask you this. Do you treat insects as you wish to be treated? Do you care for their well-being as you would your fellow man? Do you ensure they have food and shelter and protection from predators? Do you give them rights?
確かに全くその通りだね。もうこれ、グーのでも出ないね。
Of course not, because that would be absurd, just as it would be absurd for me to treat your kind as equals.
それは最もない言い分だ。あなたの種族が私たちの上に立つ理由は、あなたが愛している相手は人間なのだから、あなたの種族と私の種族にそれほど違いはないだろう。これだと思う。
My love for her does not mean I am not superior, now that she is mortal.
傲慢な言い方だ。あなたが思っていること、人間と変わらないのかもしれない。これ。
Bah! For a moment I thought you might have been building to a point, but I see now you are just a hubristic little creature.
これ大丈夫？なんか選択肢がどんどん潰されていくんだけど。
He cannot know.
I see what you are doing. You are trying to undermine the one thing keeping me anchored here. You are playing a dangerous game.
彼女は黄金の像を通じて私にこっそりと囁きかけていた。本当に申し訳ない失言だった。でもこれ、今ね、言わないでって言われたんだけど、もうここで言わないと戦闘になっちゃう気がするんだけど、どうしよう。いや、今回は一旦プロセルピナさんを信用して。
You have no idea how close you just came to eternal torment, mortal. You will need to do better than that.
ちょっと待って。 これもう選択肢ないんだけど、ちょっと待って、一応このルートもう一遍確認させて。
That is a ve-
でもこれしないともう戦闘になっちゃうんですけど、いやもうこれ言うしかない。もうここで言わないとダメじゃない？いけ。
liar.
あ、信用してくれてない。
Come into my domain and attempt to undermine the thing I hold most sacred. You will make a fine statue.
ああ、嘘。これひょっとしてなんか失敗した？
Do you really think you can wound me, a god, with that primitive weapon?
あなたは不死かもしれないが、あなたの愛する人は違う。
How dare you threaten her? This ends now. The many shall suffer for the sins of the one. You will suffer eternal torments.
取ったよ。でもなんかプロセルピアさん消えちゃったんだけど、時間を遡りプロセルピアの冠をプルートに見せる。時間を遡り、すみません、道開けて。時間を遡りってちょっと待って、多分ね、プロセルピアさん死んじゃったっていうことだと思うんだよね。なんでプロトさんに冠を見せて、いやこっちの言うことをちゃんと聞かないと愛する人を失うことになっちゃいますよっていう風に脅迫するってことじゃないかな。なんか死んじゃいそう。なんか自分死んじゃいそう。頑張って頑張って。ちょっと待って。前回のセーブからってどっからですかね。ちょっと待って、会話からスタート？嘘？マジで？もう本当に？これ、閉めるの扉？マジか。じゃあ、さっきのところまで、ちょっともう一度会話を進めておきたいと思います。さあ、今度はなんとか逃げ出したんだけど、センティウスさん、早くポータル開いといてね。あ、まだいんの？ちょっと今度まだ他にいっぱいいるんだけど。さあ、急いで。ちなみに、この町の住人もみんな、連帯責任になってたんですね。すいません、本当に。でも頑張ったんです。もう主人公むっちゃ頑張りました。でもね、もう冥界の神様、もうね、本当に暴君になってるんだよね。もう自分の都合ことばっかり考えてる。あ、センティムさん、今回もありがとうございます。行ってきます。今回で時間を遡ってプロセルピナの冠をプルートに見せるっていうことだよね。で、冥界の神を説得して黄金律をやめさせる？哲学者に助けを求めるのがいいかもしれない。ちょっと待って。ちょっと。あれ？さっきね、説得に失敗したんだけど、なんとかなんの？ちょっと一旦、哲学者のところのおじいちゃんに話を聞いてから、もう一度プルートに会いに行くっていうことを 試してみたいと思います。まあ一旦今回はこれで終わろうかな。いや、意外と最後のクエスト長いね。いや、あれでケリがつくのかなと思ったんだけど、いやー、しかしね、宇宙船が出てきた時はちょっとびっくりしたね。まあ、シュメール文明が出てきた時になんかそんな気はしたんだけど、いや、超展開になってきた。で、やっとね、これまでずっと助言してくれた人の正体も分かりましたね。じゃあ一旦今回はこれで終わります。見てくれてありがとうございました。